criminals are quite literally getting away with murder. That's according to Forensic Investigator Chad Thomas. He says 5 million cases have been closed without going to court.
When one looks at those specific statistics in relation to mass killings, you'll see that there's been an exponential growth from 2022 until present. And that growth has more than doubled and then trebled. And when one looks at these statistics, one obviously is very concerned. And then when one looks at the minister's answers in that parliamentary question, he goes on to talk about the number of convictions in respect to the 9,000 people murdered in the so-called mass murders. And we're sitting with a conviction rate of 143. And therein lies the massive problem. If you had to ask the National Prosecuting Authority about their conviction rate, they would very proudly tell you that they have a very successful conviction rate. But that's because they only enroll cases where there is the prospect of a successful prosecution. Now, in a previous question posed to the Minister of Police, who was then Becky Cele last year, he was asked how many dockets had been closed as undetected over the last 5 years. And we were shocked as a nation to find out that 5 million dockets had been closed. That means those dockets had never been enrolled in court, suspects hadn't been processed or identified, and there'd been no justice for the victims. And therein lies the massive problem. Criminals are not being held to account. There's no consequences for their most horrific of acts. And when there's no consequences or no accountability, you find opportunistic criminals start climbing the rungs. And as you so rightly pointed out, you see a lot of reoffences taking place. So the reoffenders that were arrested in Operation Chanela is not a surprise. These guys have got away with things previously, or they've got on the wrist, or they got early parole, and this is the only life that they know.